Hi, everybody. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged, even though tonight we're going to start leaning away from astrology more towards spirit. But it's good to have you with us, especially if you're coming to us from YouTube. We appreciate it. In case you didn't know that, uh, about 2 hours after every show, this is posted on YouTube. You can just type my name in or type in Astrology Unplugged in YouTube, and there versions 1 through 323 tonight. Anyhow, I have a lot to talk to you about, and I'll tell you where it's all coming from. I wanted to start by asking Rick, because I don't think he saw my email. I wanted to know if Rick and Claudia know how to operate YouTube or operate Zoom.
I've been using Zoom for a while. I still think there's a heck of a learning curve.
So can you get along all right?
Oh yeah.
I host meetings.
Okay, well, I'm asking you and Claudia to host next week because I need to take a medical break.
Oh, okay.
A mild treatment, and it's better if I just take the week off. So I can probably get you started and talk with you a little bit, but I would think it'd be exciting for you two to take over the show.
That sounds like an
Okay,
interesting
that's
idea.
how
What do you think, Claudia?
About it.
I asked two Leo people, and they both said, "Yeah." Oh my God. Now, here's a better question: will you give the show back to me at some point? That's it. Anyhow, well, that's very good. Thank you very much for doing so, and that also gets in sync with what I want to do, which is more talk from you. The night started, and I need to see Susan Avere's face. Tonight got started when Susan sent to me a request to help people find their spiritual path for their chart. Well, if you think about that, which is what I do, that's a really complex question. So I start thinking about it, and my immediate knee-jerk reaction was just be yourself. The more you be yourself, the more you're on a spiritual path. And then I realized that's not good enough of an answer. It's kind of close, but there's a lot to it. And I'm really glad Craig is with us. Craig is a fellow student studier of Course in Miracles with me from years back. Anyhow, I thought about tonight and talking about spiritual paths, spiritual movements, and it's a word that just gets tossed about so much that I thought I would start the evening with the question that I posted if you're on my mailing list or on Facebook. What is a spiritual path? What is a spiritual path? And when you think about all the people that tell you, I'm on my spiritual path, this is good for my spiritual path, oh, he's not spiritual. And I start thinking to myself, well, everything you do is spiritual. There's nothing you can do that's off the path. So, anyhow, I got into thinking a lot about this. And what's interesting, I can remember a day, I think it was 1973. I was at West Virginia University, 72, 73. And I was walking around one day and I was not high. And it was a really nice day and I was feeling golden. I was just feeling golden. And once in a while I get these feelings. I guess you could call a feeling of great presence with me. But I made myself stop. I remember exactly where I was. And I made myself stop and suck in all the vibrations in the air because I felt so lucky to be a part of that generation. And I know we've had our criticisms and we've had our problems here and there, but I just felt so good to be amongst so many people that were really loving. And it overwhelmed me. And I said, you make sure you remember this feeling. And I did, and I still do. And I haven't seen it since. I can't explain it to you. It was just a feeling of hope, a feeling of we could trust each other, we could feed each other, we can give each hitchhike and give each other rides. It was a different world, 1973. It just was. But anyhow, I don't know what has happened, but I want to talk about spiritual path because I think with 10 people, you're going to get 10 different answers of what a spiritual path is. And especially if you talk about what's at the end, what's the goal? What's at the end? You're going to feel good. You're going to be on a rocking chair. You're going to have a permanent Buddhist smile on your face. What's at the end of it? Is there an end of it? So I think this is a very good topic for us because it's really time for Rick to start shutting up and start hearing more from you guys, because we've seen last week how nice that could be. So I want to start off tonight. I got some ideas of my own, but I don't feel like a spiritual teacher, and I don't feel qualified to be a preacher, but I do feel I know enough about these different things that I can handle a conversation. And that's good enough for me. Been very pleased lately with my discussions with the other Rick. This guy is a really fine astrologer. You know me, I don't say things like that. This guy's a good astrologer, and he's very different than me, and I have a lot to learn. And I think we're teaching each other. So I'm very excited about him and the two Leos next week taking over the show. Maybe they'll sing the whole time. But it's all yours. Talk about what you want to talk about, and I'll just help you get the show started or hit certain buttons. But I have to go get a treatment that way that day, and I want rather just have no pressure on me. So I'm going to hand this to you, whoever wants to talk. What is meant by your spiritual path? What's different than what the church tells you about it? What do you mean about it? And I just think this is a really apropos topic because this world is falling apart, and the sooner we can all get hitched up on a good spiritual path, I think our Tasmanian friend Craig will certainly agree with us. What is a spiritual path, everybody? What's it mean? There's no right or wrong answer. Let's start with Craig. Let's pick on him. Let's pick on Craig right away. Come on, Craig. That's how we do things.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, deep end.
Yeah. Little Australian accent. What's the spiritual path, bud?
Yeah. Look, I'll start first by saying I'm no astrologist.
We might not even talk it. We might talk.
I'm in good hands, and you've helped me over the years. So
we might talk some astrology, but probably not. Go ahead with the question.
Yeah, spiritual. Okay, yeah. Sorry about the
the connections.
The connection I've got here is pretty rough. But for me, spiritual path, we're on it. You know, we're not on a spiritual path. But then within that, we've got choices to make. And there's always the choice to step towards healing. And in my view, that is the spiritual path, is continuing to do the work.
You're talking about is based,
I suppose,
based
holding
on
us back.
healing.
Yeah.
Did you say space?
Yeah, I'm just talking from my personal experience, and I'm sure it's probably different for everyone. Sorry, Rick.
Okay, healing of what?
Just repeat that question, please?
Healing of what, Craig?
Healing of the mind. Healing of the mind in the first instance. I guess we've had lifetimes to learn conditioned ways of reacting to life, fear-based reactions to protect ourselves. That's what the ego does. And it suppresses that divine creativity and impulse that, that's just dying to come through us in every moment.
So you're giving us
And-
some straight Course in Miracles stuff. Very good answers. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. We'll come back to you. Other people, this is the basis of the Course in Miracles, which is one type of spiritual path. And the Course itself says, you don't have to follow us. You can believe us or not. Do what you want to do. But the Course is very heavy about one-on-one. This is a path between you and God, one-on-one. And that's a really nice, relieving things to say. Let's get back to Craig in a little bit. Other people got things they want to chip in? Diane, John, anybody? Don't feel hesitant. Just go ahead and unmute yourself and go for it.
Okay, I'll jump in.
John's going to jump in.
I'll jump in. As you know, I've told you that about over 20 years ago, I had a vision of God. Okay. I don't tell people about that usually, and I know this is on to YouTube now, but since we're doing this, I might as well fess up. But I ever since that time, I've never been the same, and I've been more of a mystical person. I feel that God's with me all the time. So I play a game. There's a game when I'm out driving somewhere, and I ask the question, if I were the road, God would be the journey. So it's like, if I'm this, God is this. So let's say if I'm the sign, God is the message. And I can go on, you can do this with anything, but my path is God's path for me. I'm a
Your
thought.
path is God's path. Is there another option?
There is no other option.
Right.
I am a thought of God, and I'm in God's mind. God's the creator, and He thought of me, and I'm living that thought. So my path is to love, forgive, seek what I think God would want. And beyond that, it's very difficult to describe it because I'm a very logical person. I'm a lawyer. I was a philosophy student working on a PhD and all that. And then this thing hit me and changed everything. But so
Did your enlightenment happen around age 35?
It was 57.
Oh, okay, because I read a really good book on how it's really common that it happens around age 35. And this guy cited many, many instances. And it's not astrological 35. But anyhow, you had yours during a second Saturn return.
Yeah.
Saturn and Saturn.
And
Intriguing. And so you've been on it since then.
Yeah, and I was a trial lawyer, and I was in the middle of heavy trials, and this happened, and it just changed everything. Of course, I couldn't tell anybody about it because
Well, yeah, of course, but what did it change,
my thoughts, my whole sense of who I am and what life is all about. And the Course in Miracles says it all.
Yes, I know it does, but do you feel like this happened for a reason?
Of course.
Why did it happen during your second Saturn return?
Well, I don't know about from an astrological point of view, but at that point, I was very bright, a very bright philosopher. Okay. And ever since I was a child, I was very spiritual. So I got this crisis that maybe I made this up, this thing about God and all that, being a critical thinker, logical thinker.
Right.
And I had a crisis, and I you know, this was terrible. This was a horrible crisis. I mean, I was falling into nothingness, into some kind of like being out in space with no gravitational pull to
You
the
mean
earth.
like a void?
Yes, a void. It was a
Was
void.
this during a meditation?
No, I wasn't meditating. I was asleep. But I
You,
had,
you, you fell into the void. That can be very scary.
if there's nothing, if there really is nothingness, spiritual nothingness, I'm toast. Because
Yeah, the fear of non-existence.
yeah. So I had the appearance of God, and it totally blew me away, and there's no way to describe it, but I still remember it, but there's no way that I can
Do
explain
you
it.
think this is very common? Do you feel that it's possible to be a field of nothingness?
Nothingness, yes. I gave
Wow,
gave a name to this, what I saw. I called it no thingness.
no thingness.
Not nothingness, but no thingness. No thingness in the sense that it's not a thing. God is not a thing. And I can't say what God is. But God is, what I saw was totally loving, absolutely loving, just crushingly loving.
Now, because of that, what do you think will happen to you when your body passes away?
When my body passes away, I will just be one with God, just like I am now.
Okay. All right. Those are some. Whoa, we started off a heavy hitters right away. Boom, a triple, and a home.
Who can I talk to about this? You know, this is just,
Us? You talk to us.
I talk to God all the time.
There's only one brain.
Yeah, that's right. There is only one.
That means it's right here, buddy.
You got it.
Or you could tune in next week and get a better answer. Rick, I'm going to pick on them all night because Rick DiClemente, they'll have all the answers. Come on, that's very good, John. Thank you. Really good stuff. Other people, let's hear your answer, your response. What is a spiritual path? I'm
I'll
going to
go.
pick on Carol. I'm sorry. I'm going to pick on Susan because if you're asking me, what is let me look at your chart and find your spiritual path, what kind of thing could I find?
Well, when I asked the question, I was wondering if perhaps Neptune, Chiron, something else, combination of things might be an indicator
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a preferred method of expression of the spiritual
Well,
path.
it's a little hard. It's a little hard to lock it down to a preferred method, but I see your point, and I think a very advanced astrologer will concentrate on Neptune and Chiron and get hints at your spiritual direction. Well, what kind of answer are you looking for?
Personally, I don't know. I'm open to hearing what it might be in the chart that indicates one person's spiritual path to go one way as opposed to another.
That's a very good answer. Yeah.
I'm looking at Yogananda,
Mhm.
his teachers, and they all had a different mode of expression. For example, for Yogananda's teacher, Sri Yukteswar, it was through intellect.
Right.
For Yogananda, it was through love.
So you're calling what Ram Dass called the lineage, the person's lineage. Well, I think that's very good.
So I was wondering what in the chart might be an indicator.
Well, I think it's several places. It's in the harmonics, and I think several of the other places that Rick looks at. He's got a lot of talent with esoteric stuff. The indicators are there. The global answer the first answer is to be yourself, which is to stop being your non-self. Start being yourself. And it sounds real glib, but a lot of us are living and we're not ourselves. And that's a big deal. So that's where we start. But Secondly, I think the answer is doing what you like. Doing what you like to do, I think is critical to that part. Thank you, Susan. We're getting 3 for 3 here. Okay, anybody else they want to chip in on this question? Hello there, Sean. Anybody else want to chip in?
How you doing?
Doing very well. Sean, Claudia, anybody?
A spiritual path. You sure you want to hear my craziness?
We don't want to hear your crazy because yours is probably crazy and ours is not. No, we want to hear everything, of course.
A spiritual path, meaning, so when you say a spiritual path, that would be your mission from the person who sends you here, a path, like a spiritual path, like your mission from the creator.
Do you think you have a mission specifically from the creator?
No, I don't think I have a mission. I don't think I have anything like that. I think I'm just here on autopilot, really, and just sitting in the vessel and just moving with the frequencies that's coming through this being, like whichever way. I think it was all destined already in a certain sense. But spiritual path, I think that me, for example, I'm trapped, in a body, so it's not really a path. I think it's more like I'm here for a duty, and it can't just be to go look at the beach and enjoy the beautiful
So
scenery.
you think you're Pisces, right?
Yeah.
Well, duty is certainly a Capricorn word. Um,
I got Neptune in Capricorn and Jupiter, so maybe
yeah,
that's
yeah. Well, it's all going to tie in together. I think that was another very good answer. Thank you, Sean. Claudia, anybody else?
Well, you made a really good point that when you first asked the question, my first thought was it's such a simple question. What is a
Yeah.
spiritual path?
Right.
And it's as personal to each one of us as it could possibly. I mean, it is so personal. Like Susan was saying, I've always found this paradoxical. I have a hard time when I meet people who are highly scientific, like in my work.
Right.
They're really highly intellectual and scientific. And then sometimes I can tell, through knowing the person, they're really spiritual. And I think to myself, wow, it's just the fact that we are expressions of God, and we're all so unique. Every single one of us, like the cells in our body.
Exactly.
But what I was actually trying, so I took a different course there, but what I was trying to say was, it's really, to me, it's as simple as really being honest and true to finding your true nature, our true nature,
Yeah, that's
being
a
ourselves.
very good answer. May I ask this question? When all of you are around really neat people, okay, those really special people that have that pizzazz, they got that buzz. You don't have to know what it is. They just got, they're on it. What's different about these people? What do they have that most people don't have?
It's an aliveness.
Good.
It's good shit.
Can I print that one up? We're going to put that on the newsletter. Tune in next week. It's good shit. Come on, Rick. Let's hear your answer. Extreme joy, Lord. Very good. Rick, let's hear from you, buddy.
So I think that thing that's
It's good shit.
it is that they have love,
Yeah.
and we relate to it. They relate to us. There's a connection that is beyond humanity that connects with source. As far as a path, Where do we find the path? I think like if we're going to look at an astrological perspective, don't look at any one factor alone, because
Right.
we always look at weight. How many things are pointing to certain things in a unified way? Can you find 3 out of 5 things that are pointing to one thing? That's what you want to look for.
Right.
So, yeah, you're looking at house rulership, maybe. Neptune, Jupiter. Nodal axis, maybe not so much, because that's more of this life purpose and this experience of the world. The hero's journey is certainly intimately connected with the path, because it's part of our authenticity and discovering who we are, because that same part of the journey that is the fool in the beginning is the hero at the end.
So what happened? What happened to me when I was walking through Morgantown?
I believe you experience transcendence. I think there's also, so we can even set the astrology aside and talk about a crown chakra opening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a Kundalini experience.
Yes.
Because the spiritual path is more than just one modality to look at.
Oh, I can say it was golden. It was just golden. I can't use another word. Speaking of golden, here comes Sigmund. He'll lay a bunch of stuff on us. Good stuff, Rick. Thank you very much. Come on, everybody. Let's all chip in. Everybody, Diane gets a chip in now. And maybe she'll have more good shit. Maybe she'll have more good shit. Okay.
Well, in terms of the specific question, what is a spiritual path? I kind of agree with something you said, Rick, that, you know, well, the way I think of it is we're all on a spiritual path. Some of us are conscious and some of us are unconscious. And I guess I say that because I tend to buy into the idea that we designed these lives before we came into the body. And so there's certain, you know, things we're trying to accomplish. And in that sense, I think, you know, astrology is one of the things that can help inform us what that might be. But that really the big overriding picture is for us to go back into the heart of God. You know, we embody as, you know, separate aspects of God, but we're really, our true nature is divine.
Well, we're getting some real excellent answers here.
And for me, I really like the idea when I came across it that to get to our divine nature, we have to just remove what's in the way.
Oh,
Always there.
Talk more about that while I get her treat.
So, I mean, I think our divine nature is always available, but we have it covered over by layers of wounding and faces we put onto the world, you know, the identity, the ego. And so I think there's lots of different ways to connect to our divine nature. And I used to be wanting those really big spiritual experiences. Like I would finally have that big transcendent experience and I would have arrived. And what I've actually come to believe is that those are nice. They give us a reference point, and I have had a couple of them, but it's really about raising our vibration, opening our consciousness, being more and more in tune with what's loving, and being I guess kind of a channel really of that divine love, God, whatever you want to call it.
Well, this
and then,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think to some degree we're limited because what we're talking about, you know, divinity, God, is beyond the capacity of our mind to understand. But that some of these transcendent experiences give us, you know, a taste of what that consciousness is like.
Well, this group is really chiseling close to this subject right away from every one of you. You're all saying some stuff is really kind of similar. That's really good. Oh,
So,
as a counselor, I'm sure you're very busy helping folks to chisel away at the outer layers.
Yeah. And when you ask that question of, what's different about someone when they just have that aura, so to speak. I would agree it's loving and it's authenticity. They've removed a lot of those facades. They're coming from their heart is, I guess, the way I describe it. And inviting us to raise our vibration.
Very good, Diane. Thank you. That was really excellent. Other folks, Sigmund, anybody? We're just talking about how we define spirituality.
Hey,
What does it mean?
thing to say, I just want to re-answer that. I'll wait though.
No, Sean, go ahead.
All right. So when you said the spiritual part, see, I'm somebody, I have many spiritual experiences. You understand? So that's why I asked, I try to define spiritual path first. Like, are you saying what is my mission from God? Are you asking me, am I a body? Am I a spirit? Am I trapped in a body? It's many things because I've traveled the stars consciously, no psychedelics or anything like that. I used to try the candle method, stuff like that, and it just happened a couple, like 3-4 times of my life.
You used to try what?
No, like the candle method. Like, for example, you stare at a candle, you look at the flame,
Okay.
and then after a while, I went to sleep. It didn't work the way it should. It worked afterwards when I gave up. So right after staring at my candle, doing my meditation, I go lay down, and then that's when I consciously leave.
Well, let me ask you a heavy duty question.
Please do.
You guys ready for this one? What's it like being a Pisces?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. The word words can't explain
Good luck. I wrote a book about it.
We
What's
can't
it
really
like being a Pisces?
If I say it, it's not gonna sound believable because people don't really.
Let's just not be chicken here. Just
No, man, no,
just
because
go ahead and say it.
I'm telling you, it's like you know everything. You know everything without knowing anything.
You know everything without knowing anything.
It's
That's
not
a
like
great answer.
it's like somebody. I'm not saying you could come up to me and say, "What's the color of the shirt I'm wearing under?"
Right.
You understand? I'm not saying I know the
Right.
color. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
So it's like, even if I eat mushrooms sometimes, and some people, they do these things and they trip out, they say all these weird stuff, and they come back and tell you guys crazy stories and look retarded. When I do that, it's completely normal. You understand what I'm saying? It's just pretty much, my mind gets quiet. The thoughts you hear in your inner voice, there is no more inner voice. You understand? So
Okay, so follow along with this. That's a great answer. When you're on a spiritual path, what do you hope will happen to your mind?
What do I hope will happen to my mind?
What do you hope? What do you realistically hope will happen to your mind?
Just keeping my memories, my consciousness. That's the only thing I've ever thought. The spiritual path is detachment, period. You understand me? From everything, and just still find love within that. Because when you detach, you realize you have everything already. It's an illusion. Understand?
It was very Buddhist.
Yeah,
it's a very Buddhist answer.
But it's true. It's real. Once you find that peace, you're gonna enjoy a little space and be good. You can be there all day and be happy. It's not like you don't have money to go do something else. It's just that you're.
Well, I wonder why you're searching so much when you've already got so many answers.
Because I don't know how to tell it, so I'm not searching. I'm trying to exercise.
Why do you have to tell it?
This is exercise,
I mean, it seems to me like you've got an extremely accurate, intuitive fix on it.
Yeah, I really do, to tell you the truth. I'm just trying to see, like, a reason I'm on here is to see if it makes sense, to tell you the truth.
Okay, let me ask you a question here with all this good shit. Ready?
Yeah.
What do you think it makes sense?
100%. But you might say, why do you care if somebody else don't think it's because it's slowing down the process when they don't realize it, you know?
So you're saying that it would all be sped up if everybody else would get with it a little bit?
Nothing is going too slow, you know? So it's not really that I'm saying it needs to go faster, but we need to just get smarter quickly, you know, and
Oh,
recognize
I'm
what's
well
going
aware of that. So the
Yeah.
question I have for you, Sean, is what is missing?
What's missing is nothing. Is just that we're in a trance. Nothing's missing. We just need to recognize what's going on. We're going in a circle every day, all day. We're chasing the tail in a sense, but
Do you want to do your own show? Man, you got some good answers here. We got to
Yeah.
get these two on, then we got to get Sean on here. He's got his own show going on. Woo! Come on, Jane. Let's hear your perceptions. Thank you, Sean. That was great.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, thank you, Sean.
Jane,
so
a view from Australia.
Look, so many things have come up while everyone's been speaking, but I just wrote down, I feel for me that it's been to find it, to sort of find it, connect, and feel a sense of peace when you actually you feel you've got this beautiful connection with spirit or divine. And that's where I feel my life has been. It's sort of like as you go along, you're given information about religion, and you're given information about this and that and the other, and it's about sort of feeling what really resonates, and you don't need anyone else to tell you how to feel about it. It's just yours. And I think people were sort of saying that in different ways, but for me, I feel like I've got this beautiful sense of peace where I can ask spirit ask and thank. I feel like I'm thanking and asking all day, for so
Very
many
good.
different things. So it
Very
feels
good.
like
Now, what I want to ask you is this. It's clearly almost everybody here, or everybody, has a pretty good perception. Then why do these people come to this show when it's mainly astrological?
because there's so much in it. There's so much in astrology, and also you, Rick, too. You're an interesting soul, and you've got so much to offer, as well as everyone here. But there's just something about your experience and what you're sharing that I think is interesting and feeding where I'm exploring. Does that make sense?
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
And I feel like, sorry, I just going to say, I feel like there's just been, it's sort of, I suppose it's a bit of a cliche, but there's just so much darkness at the beginning of, well, certainly my life, but because you're trying to sort of work out who you are, and I'm still trying to work that one out. But I know that, that there's more light. There's more light in my mind, not so much in the world, but in my mind, that I can actually all of a sudden, not more and more, stop listening to all the negativity,
all the
and
stuff.
go, okay.
Yeah, Sean, did you have something, Sean, you started to add?
Yeah, you just said something you said, why are we here if we know what we know while we're on an astrology show? So astrology is like the main vessel of recognizing what's going on. This is how the forces is being distributed to us. Yeah. Like this is how we are moving. This is what's directing this play. So you're here to pretty much have, it's like, I call it a cheat sheet, jokingly with my friends. So it's kind of like, it's like the main tool to move. Spirituality is real, but while here, it's a good tool to navigate,
Well, I like that. And also when you look at me and the other Rick who have the most years in this, I think, we're both not fooled. Yeah. We both know it's not the answer. It's part of one of the answers. Mm-hmm. We just let it stay as part of it, and that's okay. Great answers. Thank you. Very good. Other people, Kathy, Peggy, come on now. Everybody, Erica.
Well, This is Kathy. I agree a lot with what Diane and Jane have said. I think there comes a point when we've gone through the religion stuff, and then we find out that that's not fulfilling our needs. And then we start searching for something else and start on a different journey and a different path. And, while you're learning all those principles and whatever, there's, you're setting goals, you're doing all this stuff and whatever. And then there comes a point where you just realize, or I have realized, that just by living my life and trying to be as conscious as I can during that process, it helps me to be more in that flow. And it's very subtle. I'm not always there, but it's a very subtle thing. And what I think has occurred as a result of this, and this has been evolving over many, 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 many years, is that I feel more peace. And I feel more comfortable with myself, which I've always, have morphed myself to be what the person I was with wanted me to be. And now I'm finding that I'm more comfortable with myself and okay with myself. And as a result, more peaceful as a result of that. So
Very good. How many people feel like no matter what happens after we're gone, it's not going to really matter? That we're going to go somewhere that's going to be kind of peaceful and cool, and we're not going to just evaporate. Something good and rich is waiting. And I feel so bad for these people. They get into these cults and they think this specific thing is waiting for them that their leader told them was going to happen. And I'm going like, change the channel. Don't listen to this guy.
Let me ask a question. Can I
Yeah.
ask? Yeah. I'm not sure who said it, maybe Shakespeare. Somebody said all the world's a stage and everybody is an
Shakespeare.
actor. So in a sense, we each are a character playing a role in what we think the world is. And where does that come from? Where did I determine that I'm this character? I'm this John, and this is my role to play, and there are these lines I have to say, and ways I have to act. Where does that come from?
Miraculous.
Well, you
It's
say
miraculous.
the planets, yeah. Oh,
And I don't know about you guys, but I think this group has a lot in common. When I look out amongst the typical Americans that are going through such a tough time now, I just don't know what they're going to do. I don't think we have all the answers, but I think we're trying, and I just don't know what their answer is, especially if they got coins still invested in old time religion. I'm really concerned. Rick,
Yes,
what do you think?
I think I'd like to offer an exercise and a different question that's along the same lines.
Yeah.
After all of us have reached the age that we are, we've been through the pitfalls, saw the darkness, came out on the other side, and we're working our path the best we know. If you had a young person come to you and ask this question, how do I find my path? Let's not say the path. How do I find mine? What
Right.
would your advice be?
Me?
I would say, what would any of us have as advice for the young people?
I think we would all say something very similar. Get the junk out of your mind, out of your heart, start forgiving, start loving, become simpler. Don't listen to grotesque people around you. I think people they already know it. They already know it, just they're not used to being right.
I would probably
used to being
emphasize
wrong.
one thing.
Yeah.
Don't go ahead and imagine that everything you're thinking about originates with you, because some of it is your ideas of what other people expect, what people are putting on you, and you have to try to find a way to strip that away to find your authentic self.
How do you do that?
You have to look at it and know that it's not from within you. If it doesn't feel right, if it's something that's causing you shame, if it's stirring feelings of guilt that other people can experience without guilt, and it doesn't seem to create an immoral life with someone else, maybe you shouldn't have guilt for that. You know?
Very good, very good. Craig, this leads me to ask you. I know you've been doing the course heavy for at least 5-6 years or more. What has the course led you to now? Where are you now with the course?
I left the course a long time ago, Rick.
Did you?
Probably before I went on my journey. Yeah, I mean, I haven't thrown it out. You know, the course actually says, you know, if you get stuck on this stuff, you're missing the point.
Right.
Well, I took that quite literally and I kept moving. So it's really, I don't look outside of myself anymore for spiritual guidance other than to what is in. I think Eliza spoke about convergence in the last episode, and at that point I said, yeah, the lenses are converging, whether it's astrology, physics. It doesn't really matter how we look at the world. Those lenses are starting to merge, and I see it as a symptom of an emergence of divine energy, and it's a very feminine. It's subtle. It won't force itself. It's a quiet voice. So that's what I listen for now, is that feminine energy within myself, that intuitive space, and I let that guide my life.
That's a very good
day
answer.
to day.
I've left the course myself in a lot of ways, but I understand what you're saying. Linda,
I don't chuck the baby out with the bathwater, Rick. I mean, you take the wisdom from your path. You take the wisdom from your path and you keep going, because that is our path, in my view.
Very, very good, Linda.
And behind all that ego. Sorry, the connection's really bad, Rick.
That's okay.
Probably better off chatting with someone else. But
that's all right. Try back in a minute. Linda, we're talking about, what is your thought about what is spirituality? What does it mean to you? It's a word bandied about. What's it mean? A spiritual path. We always start with the hard questions with you, because you are the English professor and you're also muted. So let's get you unmuted.
I was muted during my class too, which was difficult for my students to manage.
That's some trouble there.
You know, I have a couple more Thursday nights, but tonight I finally got out early enough that I could at least join you for a little bit. Spirituality. I think for me, it's about connecting. I guess that what people would call the collective unconscious, or what the Seneca Indians would call the long body, like trying, to get outside everyday reality in the body to understand the larger context that life is embedded in. I think it's extremely difficult. I think people talk about being spiritual, and I think they maybe mean going to church, or having a Bible study, or reading a book or something. I think that has to be an orientation toward life, and not just your own life as you live it, but life defined largely. Like there's stars, and there's things beyond the stars, and there's little viruses in your body, and then there's a cat running around, and there's a tree out there. Where do we fit in that? And I think that's what spirituality is for me, is trying to figure out, how human life on Earth in general connects to the larger picture, and how, little me inside this large human life is part of that. And it's extremely big. I had a therapist once who talked about this fairly frequently. And he would talk about how sometimes he would say to me, you need to go someplace where you can see the stars, and you have to lay down in the grass and look at the stars and imagine how much bigger the universe is than you. That was his idea of spirituality. So I think that's been, or imagine how many needles there are on a pine tree. How small are you in comparison? And I mean, it's about not taking things. It's not that the things that happen to us aren't important, or that aren't painful or joyful or what have you. It's imagining that it's all inside a much larger
context. Yeah.
Really, and I think it's like really hard, and that's all I'm
really
gonna say.
Good answer. How is it that we're getting good answers from everybody? Phew!
It's this group.
You guys must have been handpicked.
I want to ask another question.
Dr. John, go ahead.
How come there are a lot of people who are religious, but they're not spiritual?
I'm not touching that one.
What's that?
I'm not touching that question.
I would say they are wearing a lot of masks of what has been put on them about what they should do. They have not internalized their own path.
Yeah.
It's also a seemingly safer place to be.
Yeah.
Because religion is around doctrine, and the written word, like the course it's all written down. So safe place to be. It's all, it's seemingly all staying the same.
And you're on the right.
In effect,
you're on the right club. And they're on the wrong.
And because, yeah.
Come on, Dr. Sigmund. We're dying.
Well, I have a response to that. If we choose our life the way we're living it at this time, it may be that they didn't plan to be in touch with whatever we're calling spirituality here. And I think many people that tend to go to an organized religion and whatever, and I've known a number of those people, there are moments with them that their faith is so deep and so connected that they reach a place of contentment within themselves. But they don't know any better. They've not been exposed to anything better. And this is how they're choosing to live their life. I mean, I was raised a Catholic and was highly criticized whenever I went to public high school, by the people that were not. And yet I know and I don't practice that now, but I know for those that do, they've taken the additional classes. It's not just going to church on Sunday and whatever. They've tried to deepen their faith and deepen their belief. And so I think within those organized religions, there are people that are devout enough and devoted enough that do find a peace within. It just doesn't happen to be the path that I would have chosen.
Very better.
And so I have to honor that. I mean, I live in Oklahoma. Come on, the Bible Belt of the world, and you just have to learn to honor it and not talk about it when you're around people.
Oh, you got a lot of good answers there.
I would say that is where the religious cannot be described as not religious, but, or wait, how was the question put? The question was put about those people who are religious but not spiritual, and you describe people who are both religious and spiritual.
Correct. I've met both kinds.
Right.
I don't like the question. It's too hard. Uncle Sigmund, were you about ready to say something?
Yeah, I was going to put in my 1 cent. Basically, I think it's people have either they've lost sight of, or they don't care about, or they're content with doing partial measures or sometime measures of the spirit, and they're content with the religion to cover all of that, to cover those the holes and the absences and the short-sightedness and the not caring and etc. So that's what I think. I think that in addition to the wisdom that people have said prior, when I try to define what spirituality itself is, that every time I think of something that fits, there's ways that it's also not true. So that to me just seems to be futile. If you ask me to say what are the aspects of spirituality, how can I tell? How can anybody tell? Well, then let's bring out the coffee and the Danish, because we're going to be here a while. And it's basically about, or me, what leads me away from the things that defile me as a person and defile my life, and towards the opposite. Getting back to what I first said about things being true and not true, it's like if I say, well, do what makes you happy, follow your bliss. It's like, well, okay, and I think there's real merit in that. And suppose someone says, well, I like to I like to kill people, and says, well, happily there's laws against that. So, if one were to care, why does that fulfill you? You can go back to that and see where that is, and see where the history is that points toward that destiny. But that's why I say, simple answers always are also not true. So for me specifically, it's the Buddhist's Eightfold Path and various meditations, and that's really fine. One reason I like that is because there's no dogma, and it's basically, if you do these things, you get these benefits. If you do these other things, well, you get these consequences, and they're not pleasant, or they're really not pleasant. And it's like, come and see, and have a Danish.
Thank you very much, Sig. That was very good. The one person we've not heard from, and I am going to pick on her, it's Peggy. Let's hear what you're thinking, Peg. There you go.
Okay. All right. Well, when I was born and grew up, I had a lot of experiences interacting with spirits, and I got hooked on Astrology 11, and my dad and I fought all the time. He didn't go to church, and But he bought me the Bible, the children's Bible, and said, read this. This is really important. You need to know all this. So I read it. And I was like, yeah, it's a bunch of people on a journey, doing what they do. And then there's God and there's spirit. And I knew that. I didn't need to go and have people tell me what I need to know. I just always knew. And I just went on the rest of my life. I've done astrology and meditation and Reiki and Silva, and I experienced the Kundalini rising, in my back, and then it kind of stopped midway. So that didn't go any further because I didn't want to go nuts. But just I've had visions and they've come true, and I had to work for a living, and my father said, don't depend on anybody to take care of you. You got to go work, get a degree, go, so I had to go through all that, which we all have to go through that to make our lives somewhat successful and to have the security that we need and the money to live on, so we aren't out in the street with the unfortunate people. And many of those people I knew, and I felt sorry for in the middle of winter in Pittsburgh, laying in the snow. I just I couldn't understand that. But so I've gone along, and then in the astrology, and I know we're not really talking about that. I see my North Node was, I found this out later, it was in Aquarius, and I have been heading that way my whole life, and I really still haven't figured it out, but I've always tried to help people and give them advice and then move on. And then they come back later and say, that advice you gave me, it really worked. So I feel good that way. And I think I'm being spiritual in that way. And the thing is, Pluto is going to move over my North Node. Yay. And I think all of this that I've been doing is going to come down to what I need to do in this life, because I am not a Pisces, who they know what they're doing, and it all comes to them. It all comes. I know lots of Pisces, and they just, I could wish I could emulate them, but I can't. I've got my own problems.
Tough sign.
Yeah, so I can't wait to find out what it is. All this accumulation is coming to a head, and I know that I don't know, I'll find out, but I feel that I've tried to be spiritual my whole life and not be ruled by what anybody else thinks, and be the good person and to help the people. That's what I think is kind of spirituality. It makes being a better person, helping people, always doing good, and I've tried. So, and that's all I have to say. I'm not like a deep thinker, but I've been experiencing all these things, and
I think you're pretty deep. Well, that's a very good answer. And what the group has spoken somewhat. What I would like to know, from my position, I've led this thing for so many astrological subjects. Now that we're shifting, we're going to go back to astrology, but now that we're shifting towards the spiritual, and we're seeing pretty clearly this group is pretty tight, as if we all went to the same grade school or something. Where do you want to go with the talk? Where do you want to go with the future talk with this group? Because it's our group. Come on, Rick. I want to hear what Rick's got to say. Rick's got a lot to say. He's really good.
I think that I'd like to go ahead and hear what other people are thinking so that I don't come on too strong.
Well, that means you can't listen to Claudia. Okay.
I'll let somebody else go then, because
Erica, I don't remember you saying too much. Could you maybe kick us off for this part, Erica?
Erica, right.
About where I'd like to see this group go?
Whatever you'd like to talk about.
I think spirit should lead us there. And we should discover it along the way, just like we do with life, because you make plans and then God laughs at you and says, here, do this instead.
You think God shifted gears to all that good shit next week with Claudia and Rick? That's what we're going to call it, all that good shit. That's next week's topic.
I just wanted to share something about what I have perceived as my spiritual path. And I took it literally, like an actual journey through my life, starting at the beginning of my life, not just like currently or recently or something. And I just remember myself as a kid, loving to sit outdoors and watch the ants crawling around on the dirt and wonder about all of this creation, and hearing my parents maybe not get along and want to go in there and make peace between them and say, no, you don't have to fight, just love each other. And, just in school, not understanding why people weren't getting along and people weren't nicer to each other. And then, through the 60s, being so excited about the peace and the love and the flower children and where we wanted the world to go. So it just always feels like my path is just kind of, going into a jungle and kind of looking for the little breadcrumbs and following them and crashing into stuff and then picking up and just looking for like what is beckoning to me and what feels good, and wanting to be surprised. But I know a lot of bad things have been part of my spiritual path, feeling bad and being hurt and all of this stuff, but that way I knew that this is something I don't want, very, very sure that's not what I want. And if I see other people do it, it's like, okay, I feel sorry for you, but you're going to find out one of these days that this is not really going to make you happy. And, that's just what I consider my spiritual path, is just looking for love in the world and creation and other people, and hope, positivity. Let's see, I wrote down a few notes: wonder, appreciation, what nourishes our soul, sort of that hero's journey, like you were all talking about, what makes us aware of our connection to spirit. Things like that. I see that as my spiritual path.
Very good answer.
Everybody's answer has been great. It's been fascinating to hear what everybody's path is. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about what Claudia's been thinking. We've not heard very much from Claudia tonight.
I was going to say a couple of things, but I also, before that, I don't want to put Rachel on the spot if she doesn't want to talk, because that's okay too.
Rachel's always free.
Does Ray, do you want to say anything about the topic tonight, Rachel?
Oh, I've got plenty to say.
We're gonna put
we're all ears.
What's that?
We're gonna put a quiet little chair up top, a little empty chair, and that'll be the Rachel chair. Go ahead, you're on with Johnny Carson. Go ahead.
No pressure. Yeah, for me, I mean, I've been taking notes too, and one thing that I wanted to precise is, for me, it's not been a path, it's been a journey, like you had mentioned, Erica, because sometimes there is no path, and you have to bushwhack through the woods, or you lose, like if you're climbing a mountain and all of a sudden the trail disappears. What do you do then? You got to figure it out. For me, it's also part of my journey has also been shadow work. It can involve getting blood on your knuckles or dirt on your nails, because it's not always, I mean, I think that in the past I've been kind of like a spiritual bypasser. And so it's not, and it's like, whoa, over the decades, it's like not always sparkle ponies and rainbow toads, so I mean, it's just sometimes a spiritual path involves divine dissatisfaction or divine boredom or restlessness. Just letting you know, hey, maybe I need to pay attention to that voice, and just say, oh, instead of just having the blinders on and looking for the next shiny spiritual experience, it's like, no, I mean, I needed to recognize, it's like something's not working. I've got to change, and being open to that. But and also, in addition to spirituality, it's like as a kid growing up, I'd play handbells in church in the morning and then go out and commune in the woods in the afternoon. So I mean, and it's all, as a kid, that just didn't one wasn't necessarily differentiated from the other. So
That's
that's
right.
what I got. Oh, and also on the topic of shadow work, wouldn't that be an interesting thing to bring up during like Scorpio season?
Yeah, I think we'll hand that to Rick.
I have oodles of fun with shadow and the chart.
Rick is always talking about shadow work. It's one of
Awesome.
us got to change our name now.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
No, it's me.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Two people at one time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Susan, wait 1 second. Diane had her hand up.
One of the things that made a really big difference for me was some point in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, I realized that this is not the end here. This is not the goal. This is like a schoolhouse. And if my goal is to be happy all the time and feel good all the time, I'm going to be really disappointed. And that I think somewhere along the line, I started to look at any challenge, any discomfort as an opportunity to learn and to start to be grateful for whatever crosses my path. So I guess, I'm kind of linking that to shadow work, because I think, that's a source of a lot of our discomfort. I mean, the wounding is a lot of the source of our discomfort. And I tell my clients this all the time. I say, there are certain types of expansion that you will not do unless you are uncomfortable.
Right.
It's too hard. The work is too hard. You won't do it if you're comfortable and content. So these challenges are your opportunity to really expand in a way that you probably wouldn't otherwise.
What a hell of a group, I tell you that. Go ahead, Susan. Thank you, Diane.
Well, several points here. I think you're right. Pain is an impetus to change. If I feel fine with the way things are, why would I make any attempt to do better? Another thing is, we've been talking about just do you as the spiritual path. That works if you're a good person. What if you're not? What if your motivation is to help yourself at the expense of others, and that makes you feel good? I'm not so sure that that's necessarily the answer to the spiritual path, personally. And then I would love to hear more astrology and tie it in. I would love to know how the position of Chiron, for example, in one's chart might affect them spiritually. I would love to know things about astrology that I just don't feel I have a handle on, like supposedly there's this huge new moon in Gemini coming up on the 18th, and it's supposed to be a big deal. I have no clue why, or why a new moon is different from an old moon, or a semi-moon, or a driven moon, or anything like that. So I would love to learn more about that stuff and tie it in with a spiritual aspect. As you know, I'm also a spiritualist. I'm also a medium. My beliefs on the hereafter fall into those categories. And a lot of my clients do ask specifically about what they should be doing on their spiritual path. And you asked, what do you tell them? And my response to that is it's all based on intuition. I'm tuning into spirit. I give them what I get.
Good answer. How many people feel that this class, this group, has helped them be a better sun sign that they are? Most of you have done better with it, learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things you say is, you know, I've heard you say it so much, is you want to leave a reading. You want to leave the client with them finding that they can fall in love with their sun sign, that they can go back to really I have it written down. You said it beautifully. Falling in love with your essence, which is your, you know, I mean, we know there's a lot of other aspects of the chart, but that sun sign is.
How many people here feel that they've been in this group before?
This type.
Just a few of us?
If we're here, it means we were.
What did you say?
I said, if we're here now, that means we were.
We're gonna all salute the Pisces, so
I know.
whatever he says.
And don't you love his, like, wherever he's doing, whatever, look at him. It's like perfect.
It's
I
coming
love it.
out of the darkness. It's coming out of the dark candle.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I ask you guys a question though? Just tell me, and you could tell me it's crazy if you feel like it's crazy.
It's not crazy.
Talk about spirituality, all right? Don't you realize that when you look at the higher purpose, look at what's going on a higher level, that this is kind of like just a realm that we're creating. You know, we're just here working. You know, you already have a promise. Once you're here, your promise is eternity or whatever you want to call it. You're gonna go there. So live and die in peace. You understand me? Right now, everything you do, even you relaxing, is the job you're here to do, because you're creating. You know, we're just here building this platform for souls to come through this portal and just leave. You know, we're just traveling. You know, it's not, you know, I don't know how else to explain it.
I don't personally know if we actually have a purpose. I think it sounds nice. It's comfortable to think we have one, but I don't know. But I'll defer to the rest of you.
I know a practitioner that regresses people, and some of the people say that they've been aliens on another planet, and they come here to Earth into a human body, and they don't always feel that they're part of this. And Sean, it seems that you perhaps possibly feel this alienness, like, or you're an alien from another planet. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm just a soul like you. You know, I'm just saying.
Right, but the aliens have souls too, and they come back around. Just saying. It seems so out there. Yeah.
We're all doing the same thing. Even the little fly and the bees that you see coming around, they work and they build in this platform too, you know? And it's all one.
Okay.
Really.
Come on, Jane. I can see it bouncing around in your head.
It is bouncing around. How can you see that?
I just saw it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. I'd be interested to understand more about shadow work, and also just really enjoying the mixture of the spirituality and astrology. I really love what we've been talking about today, and it's helped me think through a few things to do with, you know, where I'm headed, and again to do with you know, life's not well, it's tough at times, isn't it, really? And I'm grateful for what this group, but I'm also particularly grateful for my spiritual life, and going on that path and just continually learning. learning. It's lovely. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much. That was good. Claudia?
Well, it's only changed my life, and I'm not being dramatic. Seriously, I don't really have a lot of people in my life physically near me. I have a great family. I love them. I'm in love with them, and we got a good thing. But friends that I can say I can really feel connected to, my friends are really my internet friends, which are you guys. And I know I've never met any one of you, but I saw Rick a few years ago on a video, and I thought, wow, that guy is really interesting to listen to. Okay, and then about a year later, I watched him again, and that is a beautiful painting, Susan. We love that little dog. And then I got a reading with him, and my life has been different ever since. My level of understanding, of course, astrologically, but it's beyond astrology, and I know that, and it's just all been orchestrated, and I couldn't have planned this. Who the heck I had literally never met any one of you in person, and yet I feel more alive when I'm in this group, because we're not going to talk about, oh my God, my boyfriend didn't call me, or what, some stupid stuff. I go, oh my God, these things. I mean, I'm all about being silly and laughing. And
If you do, I'm leaving. No, I'm leaving.
And I think that this is just my personal opinion. The root of the show is astrology. It is going to probably take on a spiritual turn, perhaps because they're so intertwined. To me, they are. And it's obvious from Rick's teachings that they are. How deep you want to go with it, some people want to look at a chart and go, oh yeah, I'm gonna, maybe I'll get a new job next year. And some people want to look at a chart and really, really see that we're here to become or see our own divinity, and our consciousness is going to expand through this human body, but we're expressions of something so much bigger than us. And astrology, to me, it's a tool. It's just a tool. To me, it's always been knowing the self. If I know me and I love me, then I'm okay with everything else, including God. I think it's going to happen naturally, but I think the root of it is astrology. I don't know if it'll remain as astrological, but it'll probably always, we don't know. We don't know.
What are you and Rick going to talk about next week?
I don't know, but whatever it is, it's going to be great. We're going to have fun.
That's right.
We are.
I'm just going to throw one thought out there for everybody who's thought about, considered shadow work, whatever experience you've had. This idea of following your bliss is not the path to find shadow work. I would suggest follow your curiosity, because curiosity can take you to mysterious places, sometimes dark places, and that can really be more revealing. And that's very personal, and it's on your own path.
Definitely.
Oh, I just had one more thing. Thanks, Rick. It kind of goes with what you're saying. It goes. It's a very personal thing, like we talked about. I'm reading this book. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with Sharon Salzberg. She's a Buddhist teacher. She's a meditation teacher. She's really famous. She hangs out with, she used to hang out with Ram Dass and, Krishna Das. Well, I was curious because the title is called Faith. You can't see it. You can't see it because of the light. Faith.
Yeah.
But it says trusting your own deepest experience. It's not the faith, because you remember I live in the Bible Belt, right? I live in Georgia. Everything's about, people use this word. And to me, this book is so beautiful because really trusting your own experience, and whatever that is to you, that's true. It's true of you, and it's true. Nobody needs to tell me that if it's written in a book that I need to believe it or that I'm going to be punished. Anyway, maybe that's a different topic for another day.
Thank you very much. Okay, one quick thing, Kathy.
Well, I wanted to mention that I started watching because I wanted to know more about astrology, and the topics have always been very interesting and very fascinating to me, even though I have never done a chart and may never do a chart. But I have found the topics of discussion to be very enlightening and very, I know, informative. It's like there's some level of my being that understands and gets it. And I don't know what that is. But I know that it will naturally evolve and whatever, but I would like to still see astrology be involved in.
Oh, it will.
That's part of it. So
It will,
anyway,
because
so I'll just trust the process.
yeah, the planets keep turning, and that's all we need to know. 'Cause
Maybe we can focus a little bit more on highlighting healing and Chiron for
we
a
can do
start.
that. We can do that too.
Are you up to that, Claudia?
Sign me up.
Okay.
That's a very
Yeah.
good one. So remember, everybody, next Thursday, those two are going to run the show, and I'm going to have a disclaimer. I'm not responsible if you get your little box turned off. No, very, very good. Just joking here. I could not be happier with what's going on because I really gave a lot of thought to how do we shift this? I felt the shift coming for a long time, and the shift is shifting itself. And that's my spiritual path is just get me out of it and let the thing just do itself. And I know that's not a very clear answer, but that's what I've got. So anyhow, I'm very grateful to all of you. I'm very happy that you all keep coming back. I don't know what we did, but we're doing it. We keep doing it. And I think there's probably nothing on Thursday nights that's any better than this show. And I'm real glad. And I will see you in 2 weeks. And hopefully you'll have a good, I'm sure, a good week with you guys and all that shit next week. Is that what you
That's
call
right. Good luck, Rick.
Is that what you called it?
Well, I don't know if we're
The
going
new
to call the show good shit.
That's what you called it already.
I did say it was good shit.
You said it's good shit. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good weekend.
Good to see you, Craig.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, all.